Welcome out to the garage. It's mid-December, so yeah, we don't have any snow on the ground here in Minnesota, and it's pretty warm out. Today's video is about slow cranking and bad starting issues when the engine is hot. Now, everybody knows about slow cranking conditions when it's really cold outside, when the engine is cold, especially if you get down below 30 degrees. The battery doesn't perform as well, and your engine cranks slow. But there's a nearly equal opposite condition which can happen with hot starting. And let me talk about why that is and what you can do about it, and how this is usually a really quick and easy, well, relatively easy and inexpensive solution. So let's talk about the problem that I was having that led to me finally doing this. I was having problems with the car starting when it was hot. And one of the first things that people, old school people, think about is starter heat soak. Well, the reason why I was pretty sure it wasn't starter heat soak is I hadn't done anything new. There were no new headers on it, and it's not like the insulation was stripped off or anything on the old cable. It just got progressively worse. Now, if you're going to have a heat soak issue on the starter, it's almost always after you install some new headers that run right next to the starter, and it is an immediate crank issue. If you are able to restart the car right away, that's probably not your issue. If you are able to restart the car 5 or 10 minutes after you've run it, it's probably not a cable issue. I had a problem about 5 or 10 minutes after I shut the car off. That's the number one area you're going to have a problem with cables. In addition, if I decided to really show it who was boss and force that starter to roll over when I was getting a half crank or a barely crank, I'd get that dreaded little zap, the arc sound, and then I'd lose all my battery power. I'd have to pop the hood, disconnect the negative battery terminal, and connect it back up again. And that meant that I had a battery terminal issue as well. So what is it your starter actually needs to crank really well, and why can there be problems? Well, the starter motor basically needs two things. It needs a dense energy source. That's the amperage inside of your battery. And then it needs voltage to push that energy source down the cables. If it doesn't have either one or enough of either one, it's not going to crank properly. Let's think of it like a treadmill. You need to run an 8-minute mile to get your starter to work properly. Now, if you don't have the amperage, you're not taking many steps. The step, when you're hitting the treadmill, that's your amperage, that's your power. And the voltage is how long your stride is, how far each step takes you. Now, if you don't have the amperage, if your battery is worn out or isn't strong enough, you're not taking many steps at all. You might have the voltage, so your stride is super duper long. It's almost like you're doing lunges on the treadmill trying to get to an 8-minute mile, and you can't get there. It's too tough. You can't push it far enough. Conversely, if you don't have the voltage, if your battery is discharged, you have all the steps, like itty bitty baby steps, like a cat on a hardwood floor, tick, 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 but you're not going anywhere. So that's an issue. But when things get really hot, like say right after you turn your engine off and there's no air blowing through your engine compartment to cool things down, that increases resistance. There's more resistance in your cable as it gets hot. That's physics, which means what you're really doing is you're adding incline to your treadmill. So when everything was okay and you're running on flat ground, it works. But if everything is much tougher because now you've got all this additional resistance, you're running up a 45-degree angle, a mountainside, you can't do it anymore. That's the issue that you might find. This is especially common on vintage cars like this '69 Mustang. Here is my old starter cable, and I'm going to bring this thing up a little bit closer to you. You can see, I'm sure you can see from this angle, there is corrosion on this thing. In addition, the starter cable has been taped up, it's been smashed, the insulation has been worn off in spots. Well, as the insulation gets old on these cables, they can start to get brittle, it can start to crack. That lets in humidity, it lets in water, moisture, and that corrodes the metal. When the copper metal on the inside gets corroded, it increases resistance. Now you add heat and it increases resistance even further. When it comes to terminals, they can also be a problem. This was my old terminal. Also, these terminals, they can wear out over time. As you clean them out, you can see this terminal is about as tight as I could have possibly gotten it, but it wasn't tight enough to make a good connection, so I was getting arcing. That meant I had two separate problems. One, my cables were shot, and two, my terminal was shot. There's an additional problem though. This is the negative cable. You can see here, it uses some pretty thick strands to it, and they're corroded, but also this cable, it is 4 gauge. This cable, which is the positive cable, I think was 2 gauge. I didn't find any writing on it, but it seems like this was 2 gauge. Now what I replaced these cables with, these old corroded, battery cables and starter cables, with was Spartan Power welding cable. And there are a few different reasons why I did that. First of all, you've got to have your negative and positive cables being the same size. Remember, you're going on a circuit. So if one of the cables is smaller than the other one, it's going to affect how efficiently and how much resistance you have in your system. The electrical load on my car is much higher than it was from the factory, so I went to 2 gauge wiring. But beyond that, welding cable uses really fine strands. That lowers resistance, so the entire system works better. So as we look at the battery setup and the cable setup, these cables from Spartan Power are 2 gauge. Now, as you can see right here, the cable quality of these Spartan Power cables, you can see how fine those strands are. They're really fine, and that means that you're going to have a lot less resistance, but they're also 2 gauge on both the negative and the positive. And that's a great thing because it means that I'm going to have good, clean power going through the entire system. I also upgraded, you can see over here, if I can get out of my light, right here, the starter cable. The starter cable is also new, and I think it was 3 feet long, and this is 4 gauge. So I've gone to a heavier duty, better cable for the starter as well. I can tell you the difference that it made was absolutely night and day. Now let's talk about the battery terminal. You can see the old school battery terminal. This was not factory, this has been replaced, but it's kind of the old style design, and the new battery terminals. And these things are awesome. I am so pleased with them. To name one huge advantage is you can see where this fatigued connector, this ring connector, worked back and forth over time, removing and reinstalling the battery and cables until the point that it snapped off. This terminal, and I can put a link to Amazon, these things are cheap, I'm not sponsored or anything, but you can actually just bolt these things right on. These Allen screws come out and you have a couple of side connectors where you can just put ring connectors on, and that's so nice to have. Now here's the best feature of these terminals. Take a look at this. That's it. Let me get this thing down. Sorry, it's one-handed, holding the camera with the other. That's it. That thing is on there. It is a tight, fantastic connection. So these cheap terminals were just amazing. And you can see on this one, it's just a hand screw. You tighten that up while it's open, you clamp it down, and that's it. It takes 1 second to connect or disconnect your battery. It's awesome. No tools required at all. So I'm really, really happy with those. Now, how big of a difference could this really make? I'm going to show you about night and day here. Okay, as you can see right here, I've disconnected the ignition wire. Let's crank it over a little bit and see what happens. So there you've heard it. Big block 427, 10-to-1 true compression, and it cranked over nice and fast. That's how it cranks when it's hot. That's how it cranks when it's cold. It's less than 40 degrees out here in the garage right now, I'm pretty sure. It made an absolute night and day difference. And starting this car before, when it was below 20, was very, very difficult. It really did not want to crank. It really did not want to start. And the cables themselves, just the cables, made a night and day difference down there too. So keep in mind, a solution for your hot cranking issue could be much easier than what you think it's going to be. I hope this was helpful. It's a really simple, really easy thing for me to fix. And I finally got around to it. And yes, cables and terminals can make that big of a difference.